One of the things that I often get in the way of feedback, and all of us in the training business do, and sadly, we don't get feedback from the class or the student directly. We often get it as a result of the internet. You look and somebody posts on one of these forums what they call an AAR, after action response or report. And sometimes they'll be negative about what they felt was missing in the class or wasn't done correctly. And I can tell you what some of the common ones are. As a firearms instructor, one of the common ones is that you don't start on time. You advertise the class will start at 0900 and you don't get started until 9:30, 10 o'clock. And students will sometimes complain about that. It's a valid complaint and you need to make sure that you're there early. My experience is if the class is supposed to start at 9, you should be there no later than 8:15. You've got prep to do, you got to make sure everything is in place. Some places you got to sign, the range or the gun club require you to sign a release. I'm a big believer in name tags. I take a roll of white duct tape and a magic marker. I want everybody to put their first name on that duct tape and put it on the back of their hat. It saves me spending 2 days going, hey you. I can learn I call you by name. And also I believe if I'm willing to take $500 or so of your money, I have a certain responsibility to at least be able to learn to call you by your first name. And I make a real effort to try to do that. Sometimes it takes, last hour, last day before I get them all down, but nonetheless, I think it's beneficial to be able to address that person by their name, first name in general. But the other minor point I want to bring up is say about early people wanting to start on time or be there. If the students don't come dragging in until half an hour late, you reach a point you can say, okay, I can't wait any longer, we're starting this class. If they show up late, they're going to miss on information. And people say, well, can you tell me what we missed? I don't have time. If I have 18 people who showed up on time and 2 guys are late, I'm going to ask everybody else to stand around while I reiterate everything I've already went over. So, I'll make you a deal, and I tell everybody this. I'll try to show up on time. You try to show up on time. Another comment is about what do we do about breaks? I like to tell people right up front, we'll take a morning break, we'll take a lunch break, we'll take an afternoon break about midday. I don't believe in a lot of breaks, and I'll tell you why. You spend a lot of money for the class. Taking a 10-minute break every hour, quite honestly, is you're losing valuable time. So I'll tell you when the breaks are and how long they'll probably be. And by the way, I gauge them on how the group or the class is holding up. If it's a hot, humid, nasty day and I see people burning down in the afternoon, that afternoon break may be a little bit longer so they can hydrate and take a little bit of a break. So, but plan your breaks. Lunchtime, if your students are going to leave the training site to have to go get lunch, you got to build that in. By the way, if you can't get them, release them and get them back in an hour, you're going to suffer terribly as far as the material you want to get across. So if that's not possible based upon the location and range, it's best that the host notify people and tell them bring their lunch. That way you can downtime 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you can get right back into the program. But you want to have that lunch period clearly defined and make sure that people can get out to their fast food place and get back in time for the class to get rolling. There's an issue called lecture to shooting ratio. How much time should you as an instructor lecture versus shooting? Remember, most people are signing up for a class to shoot. But there's vital information that should be provided, generally in a lecture format. But my experience has been you want to try to hold that lecture part of it to an hour, hour and a half. Because you'll notice, if you've ever been to a class, after about an hour and a half in the beginning of lecture, people start getting fidgety. And they start losing interest. And I like to do the lecture what I'm going to do early on in the day, because in the afternoon after lunch, if you plan it, they're all going to fall asleep on you. So plan your lecture to shooting ratio. One of the problems that is really common, and was up until a decade or so ago, was a lot of people judge the value of the shooting class they took upon the amount of rounds they fired. And guys would brag, well, we fired 1,000 rounds a day, or we fired 1,200 rounds a day, whatever. And that was the basis to was it a good class or not. That's totally bogus. I don't know anybody that realistically can function in a dedicated, conscious, analytically manner and get any value out of the shooting and shoot that many rounds. You just can't. My experience is most people in a day can shoot about 300-400 rounds max, and then their ability to focus drops off like a rock. So that obsession with high volume classes, which by the way tended to be entertainment, not training, thanks to our former President Barack Obama and the great ammo shortage, that kind of killed that crap off, because suddenly everybody had to trim the ammo count back, because you remember ammunition was hard to find and very expensive. So most instructors now keep a round count based upon the training material, not on just filling in time. Remember, if you're shooting a lot, I mean to the turns where you're shooting 1,000 rounds a day, that's an instructor generally filling in time because he done enough material to keep you for 8 days. He's filling in with trigger pulling. Now, the other thing I find a lot of time is people want to visit. They want to ask questions. You need to make time. I try to do it during the breaks, during lunch, and after the class. And remember, a lot of them have real good questions, valid questions, and that, you know, they want to know. They want to be able to say, hey, I asked Ken Hackathorn and he said this, or Ken told me that. That's important to them. That's part of what they're paying for. So allow time for people to interface with you and ask questions. Real important thing. If people ask you a question you don't know the answer to, smart moves to say, you know, I don't know. I see a lot of people who give answers to questions that they don't know about, and they kind of make it up on the go because they don't want to look like they're not knowledgeable. Generally the person ends up looking bad as you. So if they ask you a question about something that you're not in tune with, say, gee, I don't really know. I'll try to find out for you, but don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Good luck to you. Pay attention to those issues.